Now I'm going to show you how to start using the pen tool in Illustrator, and this may seem a little more complicated than a lot of the other things we're doing. A lot of this is going to take place kind of off of the screen and really rely on you holding down certain keys on the keyboard when you click around. So pay attention. I'm going to kind of go into it in pretty great detail. I'm going to try to go slow. But first I want to explain the advantages to actually doing this in Illustrator. Working with vector graphics. I'll tell you the difference between vector graphics and a bitmap. If we look at our picture of our penguin over here in Photoshop, it's like a decent picture, decent resolution, and the picture is made up of a bunch of pixels, a bunch of dots of color, right? And if we were to zoom in, you can see, you start to see those individual dots there. So you can only zoom in so far before you start to see it become grainy. You know, you've seen these pictures that come off the internet that look kind of all fuzzy and weird on the edges. Now, in contrast to that, if we have something that's been worked on in Illustrator and converted to a vector, we can continue to zoom in on this. I'm going to zoom in pretty far here, pretty far here, pretty far, keep zooming in, and you can see that the edges of this remain perfectly crisp. Okay, I don't start to see giant pixels everywhere. I just keep zooming in, and the quality stays the same. And one of the advantages to doing this is that the file size can stay very small because it's just a mathematical formula that keeps track of all these kind of curves and lines. And also that you can blow this up really, really big. If you were to try to put this on a billboard or something like that, it wouldn't become all grainy, right? And the reason that it's a small file size is because there is a mathematical formula for each one of these lines. You can see these individual lines that have actually been drawn into the image, and so then it can just make the file size very small. Okay, so this is an example we're going to get to a little bit later, but for right now, what I'm going to have you do is when you first open Illustrator, you're going to find Adobe Illustrator in your Applications folder, and it's going to be right next to Photoshop. Go down to Adobe Illustrator, open it up, and drag it to your dock, which I've done already. Okay. Once Illustrator is open, you want to create new print document. Okay. And from there, I'm just working with 10 inches by 10 inches. You don't set pixels on this because it doesn't really deal with pixels. Okay. I mean, you can see this is sort of available, but for right now, you don't really worry about that. We can name this Violin Practice. And the image of the violin is up on the blog right now, and I'm going to have you download that from the blog and open that up into Illustrator. Okay, so we got our new 10 by 10 space. I've already downloaded my violin image here, and all I need to do is drag it right into the workspace. Okay, you can see the image pops up over here, and now I just want to click on the corners, again hold shift as I'm transforming it so that it fits, stays in proper proportion. Okay, and I get it so it fills up most of the page. That's pretty good. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to go in here on my layers and I want to lock that layer. There's a lock button right there. That way I can't click on the violin, I can't do anything to it on accident. All right. Now I'm going to create a new layer and I'm going to go over here to my pen tool. My pen tool is like an old-fashioned looking like pen you would dip in a little well of ink. And the shortcut for that is P. Okay, I'm going to be big on shortcuts with this. Now what you want to do is you want to start going around and tracing the outline of the violin. And I picked the violin as a practice one for you because it has some kind of interesting curves and it's a little bit tricky. Okay, but the pen tool is great for this. It's actually a really fantastic tool. Also, you're going to be using the zoom tool and the hand tool. So you got 3 tools you're going to be switching between pretty frequently. So for zoom, get the magnifying glass over here, or you push Z. And I'm going to start on a point. You usually don't want to start on a curve when you're drawing. And again, you can see this is getting kind of grainy in here already, right? We are going to make this better. So I click P for my pen tool. I'm going to create a point here. And the way this behaves is that it helps you draw either straight lines if you just kind of click around, or if you click and hold, you can drag out a curved line. Okay? Now you can see it's filling in white right now. I'm going to go over to my color panel right here and click this stroke. This means none, right? And I also didn't like where I placed that, but now I can at least see through there. Okay, so I'm going to hit undo, And actually, before I do anything, I want to go back to my layers, click on this layer here, unlock it, click my select tool, click on the violin, and I'm going to bring the violin's opacity down up here at the top. I'm going to bring that down to about a little more than 50%. Okay, now I can see that black line a little bit easier when I'm using the pen tool. So I go back to my pen tool, lock my layer, make sure I'm on layer 2 that I'm drawing on, click, and then go out to about where this curve stops and click and pull. You can see I can pull till that curve sort of matches. Okay, if it's a little bit off, you can hold down the space bar without releasing the mouse, and that actually lets you move where you're drawing the next anchor point. Or I can let go of the space bar and continue adjusting the handles on the curve. Okay, so now I release, and you see it's drawn that. I'm gonna go back into my color palette real quick here, turn that line off. Okay, so now I want to draw this next section of curve here, and if I just click down here, you can see it's behaving weird. It wants to like jump around and do some really, really ugly, weird stuff. So I'm going to do Command Z to undo. And I've got handles here, and these handles dictate that this line is going to curve in a certain direction. But I can get rid of those handles if I drag the cursor over right on the very end of this arc I've created. It'll say Anchor. Hold down the Option key. Okay, this is one of the tricky spots. Hold down the Option key. Click, and that deletes that handle. And now when I pull out to the next curve, you can see that the curve is behaving very differently. It's giving me an entirely different behavior. Right? And now I could pull this out here. I can try to see if I can twist it in that way. It doesn't quite work. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of messing around. Again, I'm holding down space bar at this moment to move around the anchor point, and when I release space bar, it lets me actually pull the handle around. Okay, so I'm gonna keep putting that there, pull the handle, and it looks like it's going to start changing curve about there. So now I release, okay, and you can see that that actually was pretty good. Now if I go to draw my next point, it's going to be all weird again, so I'm going to Command Z, I got to hold down Option and click on that anchor point. Now when I go to my next point, you can see it's ready to curve that way. It doesn't have the continuous curve from the previous line, okay? So already, if I go to my layers, turn that on and off, you can see I've got a nice curved line for that edge of the violin, okay? So I'm going to go, I got to delete that anchor point so I can go straight across. And that time I didn't click and pull, I just clicked once. And I'm going to go down to this next curve, pull it out, hold down spacebar and adjust it a little bit. Go down here. That actually seems pretty close, a little bit of a space bar. And you can see that in this case, I don't have to delete the handles for each of these points with that Option click because it's all kind of curving in the same direction. Only when you want to do like that kind of S-curve thing, or if I want to go like from this point to that point, do I have to do that. If I try doing that right here, you can see it wants to curve up around. So I'm going to undo, Option click there, and that'll let me draw just a straight line with one click. Okay, then I come down here, fill that in, and with a bit of practice, this actually becomes a fairly efficient tool for creating vector images. Right? Okay, so what I would like you to do, I think this is pretty much showing you the basics of what you need to do with this. Yeah, oh no, I just want to finish that little line there. Okay, so what I would like you to do is trace the entire exterior outline of the violin, okay? And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to show you in the next video how to fill those areas in with color and how to adjust those areas, okay? So hold tight. I'm going to pause this, and I'll see you in a little bit.